Well, good morning, good evening, or good night, depending on where you are in the world today. We're extremely honored to have a speaker with us today, Paul Quinton, who is going to be doing a live tomorrow as well on the Wellness Lifestyle Conference. So, very excited to have you with us here today, Paul.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be aboard. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. So, Paul, I'm very interested to hear a bit more about your sort of journey into this whole world of healing and the esoteric as well, because I had a look through your bio and I was just blown away, specifically by the fact that it seems like this has sort of been part of a lifelong journey for you. Maybe you could tell us a bit more about that.
Sure. Yes. So, obviously, I grew up in a family of sort of psychics and some healers there. So this was very much, and back in sort of the 70s, especially in England, it was the spiritualist movement. Although we did extra work outside of that, that was a foundation for a lot of psychic families. So we would go to, sometimes we wouldn't go to church all the time. We would actually go because it was like a different service, and many people probably know about the spiritualist church, where we'd have, a psychic would come on at the front, and they would do channeled messages. So it's more for sort of to bridge the astral plane with the human plane, or the three-dimensional world, for loved ones, messages, guides and stuff. So that was sort of the basis how I grew up. But the main work that we used to do was at home, where we would do sort of sittings or seances, and we'd bring spirit over. And we used to work a lot with stuck souls or souls that have just passed over, like were in fear, or some have been, obviously murdered or whatever. So we used to have a whole array, and then we just have others coming in with messages. But it ended up being sort of a lot of rescue work. So I was very open, obviously, to the esoteric and the unseen world from a very young age. And it's also because of the sort of frequency that my family held was more sort of guides and healers, because that's the type of spirits that would come in. So I think unconsciously at the time that sort of set me up to do my soul path. My soul path is to align souls with their souls and to assist souls that need assisting. So my work was very much, my childhood was very much establishing that sort of frequency, acknowledgement, understanding, because there was also a lot of fear to get through as well, because, when you're a kid and you watch a scary movie and you're freaking out. So that became sort of my reality on some stage. So I learned to let go of that sort of fear from a young age, because it can be quite scary, especially when there's movement in the house. And I speak to a lot of people, and when it can freak a lot of people out. So that was good. So because of, obviously, as I've grown up and worked in this field, I've seen quite a few things, shall we say, from the invisible world. So it's really, thankfully, my childhood gave me that healthy foundation to be able to do this work, but also acknowledge that when I'm seeing something or feeling something, that it's tangible, it's real. Because obviously the ego, the conditioning of the human mind can come in. And so that's really given me a healthy foundation, and also creating a clear channel, because I do channeling work now. And that's to be, you want to bring information from the lower planes or different astral entities and all the rest of it. So it was a good way to establish what is real and what isn't. And what is fake, and so it gave me.
So that is actually really interesting to me, because, so first of all, as I said, I'm really interested in your journey, because you do come from a family of psychics and mediums and healers. So this was not weird or out of the ordinary at all in your family circle, where most of us, and I say us, I'm talking about people who've had gifts, but it was something that we maybe didn't talk about.
Yes.
Specifically, you grow up not so much with a fear of the unknown or the unseen, but you more grow up with a fear of what will people think of me if I talk about the unseen. Right. So that's a beautiful, just a change of pace for me to hear that. You grew up in a home where it wasn't just normal, it was kind of expected that this is what is going to be happening. Yeah,
that was awesome.
And And I love the fact that you're doing this work because, as I say so often to some of my students who ask me, how to start developing their gifts.
Mm.
And one of the things I always say is, back in olden times, shamans and that would be the ones who would assist the dead to move on, especially if something happened unexpectedly, because often the dead
Yeah.
don't know that they're dead, or they have one last message that they're wanting to get across before they're able to move on.
Yeah.
And so they would work as, I call it necromancy work because I use that as just a broad term for anything to do with
Yeah.
the dead.
Yeah.
And I notice I don't have a gift in that. My gift is more empathy and a little bit of clairvoyance as well. But what's so interesting is when I first started getting back in touch with my gifts, a lot of spirits would actually come to me
Okay.
because there's nobody in the region who does proper mediumship, which is the role that they're supposed to fulfill. So I say all of that just to kind of go, good on you, because we need more people who are trained in this so that that side of the world can kind of move on with what they need to do as well. So no, well done.
Yeah, absolutely.
But okay, so you were talking now about channelings as well that you do. Tell us a bit more about that. I'm very interested to hear more.
Okay, so well, obviously, I've been. So I'll just give you a little brief. So after my childhood, I went into my teenage years. Just did my human part, enjoy my human self. Then I sort of had a journey into I was in hospitality, I was in the military, and I was traveling around the world working on cruise ships and stuff. And I was sort of, I started opening back up. Well, not opening up because it was always there, but started to, as I was leaving the military in 2001, I started about a year before that, I started getting back into the healing work and knew that it was going to be my next job. So really, I've been doing the healing and channeling for the last 20 years, but it's only been in the last 5 years that I'm actually channeling sort of what we call higher dimensional frequencies for bringing a new modality, which I'll talk about in a minute, the alignment modality, and writing books and bringing information through. So the channel was really connecting at that level again, probably in the last 5 years. And I started to put a few books together, creating a teaching platform. And I channel the viridians. They give themselves the viridians, because when we work in when you go back into the collective, when we leave this 3D, and we'll talk about that as well, we become a collective consciousness. So we're not a sort of a single identity. So they actually don't like to use names, but because the human being and the human mind needs to adapt, it needs a figurehead or it needs a name to identify something. They call themselves the viridians, but that's obviously not their real name. And these are sort of 10th density beings. And they said that they're an androgynous being, because once you hit the 10th density, there is no male and female. And they've been instrumental in working with planet Earth since pretty much the start. And they are bringing through a body of work. Now, I've also got a colleague in Australia, and she channels, Jennifer Starlight, she channels Union of Love and Light, and they're a collective or conglomerate of light beings that come together with the same thread of intention, and that's assisting planets to assist themselves and helping developing cultures on planets. So of course a lot of beings are coming back to Earth at the moment as we're going through this dimensional shift, and so sort of the authentic channels are starting to bring through a lot of the ancient information that has been corrupted over the last 1,000 years, or thousands of years, dare I say. And they've talked about, and that's why the Matrix movie was very good, rise and falls of us coming back down into our lower bodies. And that's so I think the last one was probably Atlantis. And there's, Atlantis is it's like yesterday's culture, to be honest. People talk about Atlantis and Lemuria. They're very, very recent civilizations. Some of these beings have been here millions of years ago, and they've got technology on the planet now that they found millions of years old, portal systems and all the rest of it. So you've got a lot of these beings that are coming back now to sort of correct things and get humanity back on track. Because there's aspects of our culture now that's sort of going backwards, and we should be moving more into the light consciousness. So what they're doing, a lot of these beings, is they are finding channels like myself to bring a body of work through that gets people out of the conditioned state, the misinformation of what we've been fed, which is actually stopping us from living our full potential, really, to sort of umbrella it. I mean, there's so much I could talk about. So the channeling process for me now is to bring through books, which I've pretty much written now. I'm almost going to publish, hopefully by the end of this year, to assist people to reorganize their DNA and their cellular information, so that the receptor cells in our cells can actually hold the light that's trying to come onto the planet. Because if we're fed misinformation, what happens is it divides the cellular body, and it creates an imbalance in the polarity of energy. Now, when energy is not allowed to swing, this is what causes disease and dysfunction, because everything in the universe oscillates, the same as a wave in a tide, right? So this is about oscillation as well. This is about bringing back the right frequency so people can free themselves from the conditioned human conditioning, basically. So my slogan is transforming human conditioning, from conditioning to unconditioning. It's like peace, purpose, passion, and it's about bringing back that idea that we are obviously more than a body, but making it as safe so the man on the street can understand it. So we're trying to get a lot of the fear out of the emotional body, because it's actually the fear that holds the cellular division in place. So I bring in a lot of stuff through, and I'm actually starting to work a lot with the brain now. And there's a lot of control mechanisms that have been put around the brain that Spirit have asked us to start working with. So it's been quite an interesting journey, and it's still unfolding, because like I said, what we're giving you, I've got the foundation, but it's growing, because as human development, as consciousness is evolving, we can bring more body of work through. So some of this work would not be, you wouldn't be able to bring it through maybe even 10 years ago, because the frequency on the planet was too low. So as everything's changing, we're bringing more information through. So it's very interesting. And the great thing about it is it's not some sort of, right, this is a modality, that's what it's going to be like for 20 years. It's constantly changing. It's constantly changing, and it's growing and evolving. So it's quite a wonderful journey. Wonderful journey.
You've said such a lot there that I know I'm going to have to go away and meditate on, because I can sense my guides are not just agreeing, they're going, this is what we've been trying to tell you. So there's a lot of information that actually I just got in download, and I need to kind of go back and unpack all of that, because when you said about the ancient technology and Atlantis and Lemuria being recent civilizations, my whole body just froze and then expanded again.
Yes.
And then when you were talking about that, the fact that the whole universe works on oscillation, which I know, because that's one of the Hermetic principles.
All right, yeah.
And then having to include that in the body, in the cell structure, the physical, so that it can accept those light frequencies. That is just the word that comes to mind is just truth.
Yeah.
That is just pure truth right there. Yeah. And to our listeners, if I'm not making sense, I do apologize. I'm trying to parcel the information and what's coming in at the same time, and it's just that there's a lot there. But I guess this kind of then brings us to the main topic of today's discussion, which is this alignment modality that you are bringing to the world. And I love the fact that you're saying taking that fear out of the common societal construct, because that is very much what it is, right? If you and I have to go down the pub and start talking to some random bloke sitting by the bar about, letting light beings talk to you and all this other stuff, they're going to look at you like you're crazy. Or if they actually believe in it, they're going to go, I don't want anything to do with that. That's all just evil. It's just evil. And that's because of the fear that's been placed in people, excuse me, fear that's been placed in people because of the religious and social constructs that we've all grown up with over the last couple of centuries.
Yes.
So, okay, let me be quiet because this is not my interview. This is yours. Please tell us a bit more about what you mean by alignment modality and how all of that interplays.
Okay. All right. So basically, when I was channeling the book, or the books or the manuals, I was actually putting through the teaching modality first. And I started with my colleague, as I said, Jennifer Starlight, and she's got part of this work as well, called the Diamond Light work, and that's included in my alignment modality, and she does her own thing. And basically, what happened was she channels directly spirit, so she embodies and speaks. I channel through writing and sort of speaking as well at the same time, but she does it differently. And so basically, we were getting together, and then her guide came through and said, right, you're going to start this work. So, right, you're going to do this part, she's doing that part. And so that's how it evolved, really. And so it's the alignment modality, really. And the name comes from, because I said, what do I call this book? And I can't remember the 3 questions off the top of my head, but they said something. I had to answer 3 questions about my life anyway, and the word alignment came out of the 3. So that's the way it came out. And to be honest, what we're doing is the sort of highlight of this work is to align the soul body with the emotional body, so that you can ground, so the soul can then work through the body. So what's happening, all the conditioning has blocked the soul body from coming through. And then all people talk about ascension, going here, going there, but we are multidimensional beings. So this is really about setting us up so we can access multidimensionality, which is our true existence. Now, what it is about having spiritual realization whilst in the physical body. So they don't want us to be spiritual because we're already spiritual. They want us to be human. So they're also taking a lot of the misinformation out of the New Age movement, because there's a lot of this attachment to old ideas, and they don't want that. They don't even use, so for example, Diamond Light, which is Jennifer's work, Diamond Light is actually chakra. They're taking all the old words out and they're reusing new words, because we have all these attachments to the old spiritual movement, and it's a different frequency now. And what they're doing is they're saying that obviously the bulk of the work is surrendering to the divine feminine, which is, most people know about that. That's sort of what's re-emerging now on the planet. And that again, that's that oscillation. It's the male energy now coming back into balance with the feminine.
Yes.
And in truth, the feminine energy is the 13th density. That's the black ray. That's the womb of all creation. And then obviously the male energy was then created from the feminine. So we're getting to understand what the feminine energy is all about now, and how that assists us. And instead of pushing with will, fire, stress, masculine energy to get things, we're actually just surrendering now. So the alignment process is about teaching you to surrender to the soul contract, to what is already within you. And it takes away all the fear, all the struggle, all the stress. And once the ego mind knows its place, and that is a divine role as well, it can then assist the soul in physicality, and that's its true nature. Now, the ego has been there to guard us in illusion for thousands of years, because if people knew the truth straight away, they'd probably jump out of their bodies. So, and of course, it's all part of this experiment as well, the experience. So the alignment modality, I mean, again, I could talk about for ages, so I'll just try and keep it quite slow. It's really about getting you to let go of the emotional body first, create a grounding foundation, and we work a lot with the planet essences. We're coming back into the ancient astrology and the ancient numerology, because the numerology that Jennifer brings through is also it's a healing modality in itself, because it offers ways to heal yourself through the numbers where the sort of traditional stuff doesn't. So this is the ancient stuff that spirit, again, channeled through. So all the work we're bringing through is channeled. There's ancient activation. So if anyone's had Reiki activations before, similar as in the activational process, but this is about opening up the multidimensional portals in the body, so you can bring through all this different information, and it allows you then to anchor the soul into the physical body. And then when that happens, the heart opens, and then the spirit, which is our highest form of consciousness, can then work through the physical body as well. So just to go over briefly, so we work a lot with numerology, activations. We have I do a lot of work with the brain, the cellular information. We work with the mind complex. We introduce a lot of the planet medicine as well, vibrational medicine. So we bring in the elements. So I'm actually at the moment I'm channeling all the other elements: hydrogen, carbon, and we're creating like a medicine for different ailments and stuff as well. Now, the third part will have a lot of removing, again, misinformation, the religious programming, the control mechanisms around the brain. We work a lot with inadequacy, because inadequacy also is a form of its own consciousness now, which has actually wrapped itself around probably 99% of humanity, and they don't realize, and they're operating from it. So we go into the things, the programming that's been there. And it's really about getting people to transform themselves naturally without having to think about it. So it's like this overwhelming feeling that comes in, and everything just manifests around you, because the physical world is an illusion. So your thinking creates that projection. And we also teach people to understand that everything that's happening to them is a reflection of their own energetic force. So then we take the judgment out. So your worst perpetrator is your greatest teacher, because they are just reflecting back. So, for example, someone's always betraying you is because you have a betrayal belief system in you, or an unprocessed emotional hold around betrayal. So you're going to keep projecting that, keep creating it. And this is what people call karma. They think it's good and bad. No, karma really is the soul trying to wake you up to something that you haven't resolved in yourself. So what we do is we reverse all the information, and then it takes all the judgment out. And then you go, wow, actually, I'm in power. Actually, I'm controlling this. So I have the choice and power to change it. And when you get human beings into an understanding that, when they feel that, it's very simple. You just got to get over that bridge. Everything starts to transform. And I've just put the alignment modality together this year, and already 80% of people are pretty much transforming within a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Just things that, in physicality, like businesses opening up, opportunities opening up. So what's happening? All that is what we've done is we've allowed them to give space for the soul to come in, and then the soul manifests and creates everything. So this is really about soul alignment.
This sounds to me like the law of attraction, not even on steroids, nuclear powered. It's just because I'm resonating so deeply with so many different things that you've said here, Paul. And I'm definitely going to be having you back on for a much longer discussion in the very near future.
Thank you.
I want to hear a lot more about this. But what I find so intriguing is I've noticed similar alignments myself over the last couple of weeks, as I've been maybe doing not exactly what you are talking about, but certainly moving in that direction. And I can see how the whole world starts to open up for me. It's as if, I'll actually give you an example. It was on Wednesday. There was something that wasn't quite right in my life. And I said, so it was Tuesday. Something wasn't quite right in my life. I went to bed Tuesday night and I said, right, I'm going to wake up with the solution to this problem because I deserve it. I deserve the solution, and this thing has to resolve itself. And I didn't even wake up the next morning. I woke up at like 2 a.m, and it felt as though the entire planet had just taken a knee and gone, what would you like us to do?
Yeah.
That was literally how it felt. And I'm like, this is so powerful because everything just fell into place.
Yes.
Like it felt as though it was just me making the decision. I didn't even have to put in extra effort, and everything just came into alignment. So I've been trying to avoid the word alignment because I don't want to take away from what you're talking about, but it's exactly how it felt. So I'm resonating really deeply with this. Okay, so all of that having been said, and I'm super excited about our discussion today.
Thank you.
We are almost out of time, though. So as I say, I definitely do want to have you back on the live show in the next week or so.
Yeah.
But you obviously a speaker tomorrow.
Yes.
And you have this alignment modality is it a program or a book that you're writing?
Sorry, that's what I said to you before the interview. I go off on a tangent. I forget what I'm saying sometimes.
No problem.
So this, because again, that download of information. It's just
yes.
Which way do I talk? Yeah. So basically, it's a 3-part module. So, and then there's a 4th part, which is practitioner level. And what happens is generally, and what we've seen is the module. Everyone that comes on the course has had a multidimensional past life connection. And it's really bizarre because, I should say bizarre, but it's great to see that the people on there have collective traumas together. So actually, when they come on, and we had people on 4 different continents last time, and they'd all been together in certain aspects, and they'd all had these different programs that they'd shared. So you get a deep soul and group healing as well, which is fantastic. And what happens is then, I will say, between 3 to 6 months, you'll be able to do module 2, because depending on the frequency of the group, certain people have more healing to do, and you can't evolve into each module until the energy of has been transformed on the first level. Because as we go deeper into it, we're starting to remove very deep ancient programming. And then obviously in the 3rd module, we're actually starting to talk to spirit and bring spirit in. So you have to be prepared for that, and you have to clear a lot of the fear out. So yes, again, so it's but generally you'll do it over a year probably, and then be practitioner level maybe 6 months to 12 months after that, because people really need to be clear to
yes,
so it's important.
This is so incredibly powerful. So I'm going to wrap this up by saying I'm blown away, and I'm wanting to sign up for the alignment modality. But for our listeners who are resonating as well, and I sense that there are going to be a few people, not just from today, but from tomorrow's session as well, who are going to resonate quite deeply with this. How do they get in touch with you? How should they reach out?
So best way is through the website. So just the website really. I've got my phone, website or email, all my details on the website.
Brilliant.
Do you want me to say that now, or?
No worries at all. So for our listeners, it's in the description as well of this video, and that will be, whether you're watching this on Facebook or LinkedIn, you'll be able to see that there too. And we are very excited to have you tomorrow. I can't wait for our session. Paul, this has been not just enlightening. To our listeners, apologies if it sounds like I'm rushing through this last bit. It's not because I want to get off the call. It's because I've had such a huge download that I feel like I need to go and process it. There's such a lot that's come in, and I'm like, that applies there, and that goes, so yeah, just incredible. Paul, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's really lovely to speak with you.
Absolutely. Looking forward to having you tomorrow. You are live at, I believe, 9 a.m. British Standard Time.
British Standard Time, yeah.
Which is 10 a.m. Central European Time. So looking forward to that. And yeah, cannot wait. It's going to be good. Thank you so much, Paul, again.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you.
Thanks.
You have a lovely day. Thank you.
You too. Cheers then.
Bye-bye.